ask them. Hello, internet. Like we got ladies, we got gentlemen, we got genderqueers, we got all of the above. Hello, I'm Maya Coleman. I'm Kickstarter for Skybound Tabletop. And I brought all of these lovely people to join me on stream to talk to you about how necessary diversity is in the tabletop industry and what we need to go and do that. Because honestly, it's ridiculous how one note some of these games are. That's just stupid. We got all these cool people playing all these games. So we should be making all these cool games about all these people. That's essentially how I would round that out, I guess. So here are the lovely people on the panel that we'll be talking with today. First is me, who I told you who I am already. I'm the Kickstarter manager for Skybound Tabletop. I'm known for being still the only employee at Secret Hitler 4 years running. I ran the Trogdor, the board game Kickstarter by myself from a train in the Netherlands. And I do a lot of Kickstarter stuff. James, you want to, without further ado,
running Trogdor from a train in somewhere, that kind of gave me Snowpiercer vibes. Like,
honestly,
Maya on a train, like keeping things together.
I think, Anya, weren't you there for a meeting that I had? I think it was for Inhuman Conditions, though. It was like me and you and Luke on a train, and like a train noise was like enormous, and Luke was like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "A train." Yeah. Anyway, sorry, James, continue. Snowpiercer's great. Anyway, tell us who you are.
I am James. I am Senior Director of Skybound Tabletop Games, and I care about this subject a lot. So here I am.
Thank you. You should, because it's important. Anya, this is Anya. They're my best friend.
Aww.
Tell us who you are, Anya.
Hi, I'm Anya. I'm the Director of Games at Kickstarter. That's Kickstarter, the company, not a specific Kickstarter project, which can get a little confusing.
Yes.
So I'm responsible for the category. That's tabletop games, that's video games, that's LARP, that's anything that is a game. I have to make sure the ship or the train here is running.
Hello. Nice. Yeah, Anya's badass. Also, she's a musician. And she's great. Cool. All right. Here we go. Jeremy, what's going on, dude? How you doing? Tell us about who you are.
Yeah. Well, I work with Man vs. Meeple, which is a media outlet. We cover board games in many different ways. I myself do a little bit of everything that is around board games: advertising, promotion, reviews, playthroughs for solo stuff, and pretty much just doing community building things. So that's what I'm supposed to do, is spread knowledge about board games and also make sure the community is healthy. So.
Hell yeah. You are like a dude that I was like, I want to know that dude. But then I was like, I'm too awkward to introduce myself to that dude.
No,
but then I eventually did, and I'm like, what up, Jeremy? Hey.
Never, ever.
Thank you for accepting my awkwardness and doing cool community stuff. Yeah. And Marcus, oh my God, sorry. I'm so excited to talk to Marcus and Cara too. I just hear Courtney talking about y'all. Can y'all talk about yourselves? Because you do cool stuff.
Sure. Like at the same time.
No. Actually, I was gonna say Marcus, but no, Cara, you go first because I remembered how much I love your cat. Cara, please tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay, cool. I'm Cara Michele Ryan. I am the art director and half of Water Bear Games. We have published Discount Salmon and Bees and Let Her Go so far. And yeah.
I like those games.
Yay.
Yeah, I luckily have a roommate who is like y'all's biggest fan, so I get to experience y'all's games, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
That's why I reached out to y'all. And then Marcus, can you give some little bit of you on this as well?
Sure. I'm Marcus. I'm Cara's cousin, and I write the rules for the games and make the games up, and then she makes them pretty. So.
Yo, see, that's well. Like you're both sides of the brain. Mm-hmm. That is excellent. Can't wait to play your games more. I want to play everybody's games. Honestly, okay, great. You guys are great. I love you all. Thank you for being on this panel. So, why are we here? We are here because the game industry, tabletop industry rather, has a problem. And that problem is that it's real homogenous with the same people making games and the same people making, like, are the subject of other games. Like, do we know? I know there have been some people that have tried to make strides, but like, as y'all know, it hasn't been a lot. But can you think of offhand some things that some people have already tried to do in the past that isn't just like saying we're going to do something, but then they didn't actually do anything?
There's a game that was on Kickstarter from Banana Chan, and of course the name is escaping me. It was very recent, and it was a tabletop game about the Asian immigrant experience and running a restaurant, which I was like, that is a subject that I feel like is not discussed in tabletop, and let alone a game at all. There's been a couple like this is not the right term, diversity games, right? Like, that's a terrible term, but games that are not just about like trains or or just like, you know, typical sort of white dude stuff. It's kind of cool for me to work in a space to be like, oh wow, this is interesting. I didn't think about, you know, this perspective. How do you make a game for that? So
I've always found that just we're at a point where I've kind of seen it where it's just a blender of stuff, where it's like it seems effortless blender, you know, of culture, which is great, you know, to represent everybody and sexual orientation and stuff like that, and it make it look effortless. And then you just have the other part where you have like maybe one character of color and they look very stereotypical, or they got painted with a brown brush, you know, and not necessarily a good brown brush, just like a really dark one with a dark crayon, you know.
That like nobody washed the water out before,
you know?
So it's
And
just been like crusty with the old paint. Yeah.
Or you can just tell, you know, it's like it's done by a foreign artist, and the foreign artists don't necessarily have a touch of what's going on in this world. They don't, nor do they care. So yeah, we can get into all that, but you know,
we will. In fact, yes, that is the point of the panel.
Yeah.
Because you know, like I've seen a lot of these types of panels too. And usually they're run by like really like performative people who are like, yes, look at these reasons why I'm doing the right thing. And that's not always helpful. And I think what we should totally talk about today is like what's actually helpful. What are some actual like active things we can be doing, and how people should be handling all of this, because the industry is cool and it's growing and there's all these cool new people. So we need to have the games grow too, or else like what is the whole community would just be stagnant if we didn't make new games for all the cool new people we're adding on to the community. But one of the good things also is that everybody kind of comes from everywhere. So let's talk about like where we were when we were getting started in the industry. Me, wow, if you had talked to me like 5 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, I'm just gonna like be a film composer or whatever. And now I'm working in board games somehow. I seriously, my friend Tommy made Secret Hitler, and that's the end of the story as to how I happened, which is wild. And it was very much like, I'm the only POC in this office, kind of. Who else is making games? No one? Cool. I'm just gonna chill in my cubby and stuff. And it's really nice actually to see how much that has changed. But I wanted to hear from you guys too. Like, what was your journey starting from how it was like when you started versus like how things are going now? Because at least for me, things are getting better. They're probably not where we need to be, but they're getting better.
Oh, well, I'll just go ahead and kick it off. I work at the VA. I'm a trainer by day. I basically do a version of what I'm doing for the industry. Is like I train and teach things, and that's kind of halted right now. But we're about to kick that up again. I'm very excited. But that's what I was doing before I even got in the industry. So I was already into like writing curriculum, you know, creating content, because that's what I do at the VA is create content for people to digest and learn about development. And even in that industry, there's not a lot of people of color at all. Like, we actually just had a huge overhaul in our office after a whole bunch of staff members left, and now my boss is black. Our front, like, we have all these people now of color, a very eclectic bunch, which is great to have. But then I go over and I look at the industry and like, yeah, I tell you, I guess the industry's on the diet because I don't see a lot of us, So it's like, so I honestly, I'll be honest with you, like, I see some of that changing, but I also see a lot of things that need to be, developed.
Absolutely.
And and I will be honest when I say this, that I feel like there are people in place that are developing that, but they're not in a place of power yet,
Right.
And they do need to do the work, like everybody else, and they need to hone their skills. But I feel like we are slowly starting to see that culture grow. It may take 5 more years before those people get to those positions.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can see how women are, women are dealing with it. It's like
Mhm.
the things that women have to deal with alone, just alone.
Mhm.
So it's like, are we next, or like, is that a blender, like, or is that industry, is always, the industry always going to be like that? So we don't know, you know. But we do have some people coming, you know, and I like that idea. I like to try to take a positive spin on it. Try. Try.
So yeah, how's the rest of y'all's journeys been?
I love the positive spin. I'm a Sagittarius, so not to get all astrology or whatever, because it's all,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's just nonsense. It's all
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah.
But that is apparently one of
Yeah.
the traits of a Sagittarian, is we tend to you can throw anything at us and we're like, well, but here's the positive side of it.
I'm a Leo, so I'm a Leo. I have to. I'm just.
Oh,
Just
then we
all
would get along.
positivity. All
You and I would get
positivity.
along very
Yeah.
well. Leos and Sagittarius are very, very compatible. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I've been in the industry. I've been in the games industry 12 years. I've been in the tabletop industry about 4.5 years. And before that, I studied music. That's what I thought I would do. And then I was like, oh, the music industry is so terrible to women. I'll go to games.
Yeah.
Yup.
Nah,
Good
that
move.
was,
Strong move.
strong move. Yeah.
Strong move.
Such a strong move. So it's been 12 years of a lot. It's been a lot. It's very interesting every time we have a Me Too movement that's happened in games. It's been happening roughly every other year at this point, and
Mhm.
nothing ever changes, except maybe the last couple of years some stuff has changed, but it's kind of all the same. I would say, just to kind of infuse a little bit of the video game perspective in here too, since that's technically my specialty, but obviously working in tabletop, working for Kickstarter, that's a big
Mhm.
part of my life too. There is a little bit more diversity in the video game space, at least from what you see in terms of the people that are making the content. The business side of it, not really.
It's still, yeah.
It's still pretty like a bunch of straight white dudes. It is changing. Roles are changing. I think also just looking at how work is going to change moving forward, given this current sort of like, we've been stuck at home for so long. Remote is going to be a lot more possible. Hiring people from different backgrounds, because there's an accessibility issue, which is going to be a lot easier, right? If it's like people have to work from home for whatever reason. I think it's actually going to potentially be a positive. There we go. See, there's my
Yeah.
positive spin for
See?
you.
Spin it. Spin it. Spin it.
But I will say that the tabletop space, I was really surprised when I started going to conventions for Kickstarter at how I would walk into a room, and I generally always feel like I'm the only one in a room, just because, like, despite this creamy white skin, I'm half Indonesian, and no one really suspects that. So I'll walk into a room and be like, "Yep, it's a bunch of white people, and they all think that I'm one of them, and I am not."
It's lit. Oh my God, you're like a double
Big
agent.
move.
I'm so sorry. That's so funny.
No, it's so true, because
That's so
I'll
funny.
like, I clock it in the back of my head. I'm just like, yep, there it is. I can tell you that, like, I'm sure, like,
That's
as
funny.
my fellow women will do the same thing. Like, we're only women in the room. I have the fun added layer of the secret that no one knows. But I will say that, like, I do feel like some of that has changed. However, I also don't know how much of that is a confirmation bias, where I have chosen to surround
Right.
myself with people that are not just a bunch of white dudes, because I refuse to adhere to the norms.
Right.
But I do
But
feel
you-
like, just sort of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you finish what you said.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I do feel like, just anecdotal surveying of being at like PAX, it does feel like things are shifting a little bit.
I always lend this to is like, you found the people who can sit with you comfortably at the lunch table,
Yeah.
you know, and you wish that everybody was hanging out at the lunch
Right.
table. You know, that's
Yeah.
the problem. It's like you find your lunch table, and like for me, it's always going to be an eclectic bunch of people
Mhm.
that I feel like have signed up for the contract. That is like, hey man, like let's be together, you know, like let's
Yeah.
be together, respect each other, you know, and respect everybody around us. But
Yeah.
you know, even within that, it's unfortunate that you can't go that far, because then there's the poker room talk, and then there's the people who just, you know, they're doing it just to kind of cover up, and we, you know, that's what we're really dealing with here, and that's what we're really dealing with. A lot of undercover stuff going on, and a lot of, like, you know, in plain sight but not seen, especially with women, you know, especially with women, which is unfortunate.
I don't want to take up too much time because
yeah.
I do want to hear from Cara, James, and
Marcus.
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 But I will say one of the things that's very interesting as a like secret agent is the number of times I will be in a space that is all white, and someone that's not me will be like, "Did anyone else notice that there's only white people here?" And I'm like, "That doesn't make you better."
Yeah.
That's also wild. I feel like they don't always notice that. Like I was talking
Yeah.
to Jason about that too. It's like, do white people know? Like when white people walk into a room with only white people, are they registering that they're walking into a room with only white people, or are they
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
here I am in a room, as opposed to
Yeah.
like I walk into a room
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, how many? I got these
Yeah.
brothers. Like there's like 2 brothers in the corner. Okay, and I got some. Okay. I'll make my way over to those places where
Yeah.
the other 2
Yeah.
people are. Like, but like I feel like white people like.
Yeah.
That's a
I
huge
wanna-
weight removed completely from just
Well, I
entering
do-
a space.
Yeah, I mean, I do sort of feel like like part of me wants to be like, good job, but another part of me is like, are you saying that to be the person to call it out because you want to change it, or are you doing it because it's the topic of conversation right now? And
That
that's where I get very, very concerned about intent. That's always like a huge one for me. And so I've definitely just left conversations and be like, I can't be a part of this conversation because I'm gonna go off. Anyway, sorry.
What are some of y'all's other experiences, Cara and Marcus? Y'all are so nice. Sorry, yeah. What are y'all's experiences too, guys?
I'm from Nebraska, so
What?
yeah.
Wait, you're from
Yeah.
Nebraska? Like
I mean,
Nebraska,
cheers to
Nebraska?
you, sir.
I'm in Omaha, Nebraska right now.
Bro, black
Yeah.
people are from
Yeah, we
Nebraska?
are.
There are some.
Yes, there are. Yes, there are.
Oh, I need to
yes,
send y'all a
I just
care
looked it up.
package. Thank
just
y'all.
looked
The
it up.
state is 88% white.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
Rough. I think what's more rough is that none of them know. Like they're like, I think it's 100%, and Marcus is just like, meh. And Cara's like,
I am aggressively noticed when I enter rooms. I mean,
Yeah.
when I'm
Oh my
not
goodness.
at game conventions, my day job is software development, and
oh god.
there are not many of us there either. I
No.
mean, there, I could count on one hand the number of other people who aren't just like white guys. Just when you go to a convention, for computers and for board games are very similar.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of overlap in our friend groups. Like a lot of the software people are also tabletop nerds. So fancy that.
That's neat. I didn't even think about that. That's neat.
But yeah, so before I was doing tabletop stuff, I had graduated pretty recently from college and I was an administrative and marketing assistant at a fitness center, but I wanted to be doing art things. And so in the beginning, like there was this event over a weekend called Startup Weekend where you try to start a company in 48 hours, or at least like the proof of concept. So Marcus was like, I want to start a board game company. And he was like, Cara, come make pretty art for my games. I was like, okay. And that's that's how it kind of got kicked off. But oh yeah,
Ooh.
there's
Oh, nice.
there's the shirt from
Yo, that's a sweet
Startup
shirt.
Weekend.
I like that
bet.
color.
How about that?
It's like blood orange. It's a good color. All right.
It's funny that you talk about the color because Marcus said it was discount salmon, and then we made a game based on the
Stop
color.
it. Are you kidding me?
Yep, that's
Oh,
absolutely true.
That's oh my god.
Yeah,
I
I'll have
am
to take
so-
pictures.
I am so blessed to have learned this information. That is so cool. I love just like weird, like organic stuff like that. It's like, well,
That's
here,
sweet.
this is our lives now. Here's a game. So yeah, James, I want to hear about your journey too, because my mind is like forever blown at like how like white people see the changes / don't see the changes. So like, what have you seen as like a dude with some power and some status who's been around here for quite some time? What have you seen?
White fragility. That's what I see.
Lit.
And that's not just board games. That's the whole power structure, right? Is based around that white fragility. And whenever we start trying to, even internally in our own company, which I think Skybound is a pretty progressive company and cares and is inclusive. Even when you start trying to chip away and implement things, that white fragility pops its little head up and is like, well, can we do that because of bleh? And you're like, you have to smash it with a sledgehammer. And it really exposes that I can't use, I'm always called out for being hyperbolic. A lot of companies are built on, white supremacy and, privilege. And so you get these areas that just need to be broken and beaten down and then rebuilt back up the right way. So a lot of the conversations that I have in the industry, like Jeremy was saying, are one-on-one because a lot of people are unwilling to have them in public. So I have a lot of these conversations one-on-one, and the biggest thing is like I am preaching, evangelizing why diversity is important, because I don't feel like if people don't have a genuine reason why they should do it in the first place, or why they should care in the first place, they're going to be doing it for tokenism. They're going to be doing it for the wrong reasons. I don't know if I think that was just mostly me rambling for like 3 minutes. I don't know if that answered any of your questions.
No, it did. And like, it also brought up this other point, where like right now, we're talking a lot about, like my next section where we're trying to make ourselves seen. We're trying to, see like just each other within the community and everything. And I think it's really great, James, that you have been talking to about this, because I feel like you, like a games person who is white in the sphere of games, telling other white games persons to be doing things is helpful, because like they don't want to listen to us. It's like,
they don't want to listen to me
like
either.
Let's just like say that, like I'm sure some of them want to listen to us, but like for the most part it's like I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, which is part of why I am doing this panel so much and I am pulling all these people together, is because I'm like, I am tired of you not listening to me. Like, we need to do things, we need to make change, and we're here, we need to stay seen. So like, what are some things that you guys have been doing to make yourself seen and to make others seen? For me, it's just people randomly taking pictures of me at cons for Secret Hitler and then posting me in the Secret Hitler subreddit, which is very stressful.
Yeah.
It's fine, but I meet a lot of cool people. But I'm also like, since my whole company is like dads who like don't want to like see anybody, and then it's me being like, I guess I'm the only one here. It's very stressful because it's like, here I am on this pedestal, but I also don't want to be on this pedestal. I just want to give you guys cool games, which is also why I'm working for Skybound now, because I'm like, heck yes, cool games, more people. But like, how do you guys go about making yourself seen and like see how you're like represented in the environment, or if we even do get to represent ourselves how we want to represent ourselves in this environment? What say you?
I would say partly just because I'm really a big self promoter. I kind of have an outward personality, so I don't really allow people to not see me if I don't want to. Like, I'm just one of those people. Like, I'm just one of those people. I like to be amongst people. I want people to know about things. I want to share. So I think just by doing that, over time, whether you have those internal bugs that I think some people feel right away, they may get over them over time. Or unfortunately, I may be the one that they are okay with, but I can't take that approach. I have to at least, remain positive, also represent myself well, which is something I know I have to do in this world anyway, better than other people in a sense. It's unfortunate, but like, I really do have to put my best foot forward and keep it tight, and try to be good, sometimes. And unfortunately, that's the way it works. But I've been doing that, and I try to collaborate with a lot of people. I try to help a lot of people get contacts, just anything that I can do to help other people like myself, men, women, does not matter at all. I want to, not just be up front. I want to be behind the scenes and really help people grow and help this hobby grow into a more diverse community. And I will do that, whether I burn or not. This is just cardboards and cubes. I care about the people. So
Heck yeah. And for our fellow introverts, What do y'all do to make yourself seen? That's really rad, Jeremy, though. I feel like it's so important to like, if you have that access, then like share that access and bring people up. Like that's so
No, you
important.
have to. It's your responsibility. It's your
Literally.
responsibility. Like I have a platform. I've only been going up for 3 years. I've only been going up, and I may be at my plateau. Who knows? But I will take people with me, or I will send them to wherever they need to go, or whatever they need help with, or give them what I had confusion with, so that they can do what they want to do with it. And I just won't stop doing it. That's what I made. That's what I'm here for.
Right. So
that.
like you and James like talking to people.
Yeah.
Bless both of your hearts. For the other introverted more people on this panel, myself included. What are some of those things that y'all are doing to make yourselves seen that aren't accidentally being posted up on Reddits of your board games?
Ooh, I'm mostly on Twitter, lurking. No.
Just lurk. That's like the opposite of making
lurking.
yourself seen. You're
Yeah.
intentionally hiding yourself on Twitter. Like that's not
Well,
Marcus.
well, Marcus, I feel like, well, at least before pandemic times, like you would go to like a ton of conventions, and like I go to conventions when I can, but like even before pandemic times, like the last couple years, I've been focusing on my kiddos. Like I have one that's 2, and then one that's 2 months old now. So yeah.
Precious.
So I've been focusing on my kiddos,
Aw.
but like I'll still do art for our games when I find the time, and hopefully when the kids are a little older, I can just bring them with me to conventions and we'll all play board games and it'll be fun.
Yo,
But
That would be great.
cute as heck.
yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, Marcus, I feel like you would go to cons like at least 1 a month or like 2 or 3.
What? Marcus,
because
you're hustling.
because you're
I was trying real hard. So
Yo.
I specialize in mostly going to the game development conventions. So
Mm.
your Protospiels, your Unpubs, and Tabletop Network. That was really good. And I went to all of those, bringing my games, letting people see me as a game designer.
Yes.
And yeah, because that's pretty rare. You have to have both time and money to go to those things.
Yes.
And the people with the kind of time and money just don't look very much like us.
Yep.
So
But when we get there, oh, we're there.
represent.
We get that nod. I keep trying to talk to my mom about like the black people nod at cons, where I'm like, what up?
Ooh, it's like
There's one blurred across the room, and I'm like, what up?
Yeah. Yeah.
How you doing? You're like a mile away, but I see you.
Yeah.
Do you subconsciously count when you walk in the room?
I always count. That is not
Oh,
subconscious.
you
I
ready?
intentionally count.
All right.
You ready? So this
ready.
is terrible. This is
Oh,
terrible.
no!
This is terrible.
Oh no!
All right. So when I was coming up and stuff, like, first starting out my little tiny blog, and I didn't really know, nobody knew me or whatever. I would go to conventions and they would say, oh, like you'll see me. And I always write these emails that are very colorful and trying to get everybody excited. Like, see me. And I'd be like, well, you see me, I have dreads. And this one guy asked me one time, I'll never forget, he asked me, he said, you have dreads? Wait, are you Gerald? And this other guy named Gerald King, he had dreads. And I said, no, I'm not that guy with the dreads. I'm the other guy.
Oh no!
And I was thinking to myself, like, wow, it's really down to that, huh?
It
Or
really is.
I was like, or I'll be the tall black guy at the convention. Like it's just even as big as Gen Con, you would be surprised how few of us are there. Like it's not like hands, it's not hands and toes, but I
No,
have
but
been to a lot of conventions where it was hands and toes, and not even my toes, just my hands. So it's just interesting to see that, even as it gets bigger and bigger, even in Milwaukee where Gen Con used to be,
Mm.
have a big convention, and it's just like, man, they are, oof, hey, I'll take any color. Like,
Yes.
I feel like Gen Con is practically a small city at this point. What are they up to? Like 80,000 people or
It is.
something like that. Anyway, just even despite that, it's very easy for me to find Marcus. Like, oh, there he
Yeah,
is.
so I'm saying it's still easy to find people. That's the
Yeah.
craziest part. It's like, I know where you are, like,
I even have,
It's wild.
honestly, I think I even have like better luck at PAX. And I think that might be because of what Anya was saying, where like when they also add the video game element, there's a lot of different people
Right.
there too. And so like
Right.
Gen Con is very, wow, there are 2 white
Yeah.
people here, or there are 2 black people here. And PAX is very, wow, there are 6 black people here. Like
Yeah.
it's not like amazingly, but like I do enjoy PAX a little more because I like see a
Philly,
few more blurs in my homies.
That's
yeah,
like
Philly,
3
Philly's a
times
little
the black
different.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Philly was a little different though. Like that was
Yeah.
different.
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad.
it was different. Like I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm feeling this. Like when the more
Yeah.
public came in that Saturday, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this is cool. Like, you know, see more families coming in, black families. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
cool.
So
Like,
this is part of like what are
yeah,
some things that people are doing better? We're expanding our
yeah,
reach. We're going to more conventions. Like, what are some other things that we do? Like, one of the things I'm trying to do is this panel, just so I can just put myself and other rad POCs into places where white people might stumble upon me yelling at
right,
them. So, you
right.
know, like that's really important. Inserting ourselves into the scene. Like, what are some things y'all have actively done to make things better?
I accidentally found myself on 11 PAX panels at PAX East this
It's
year.
lit. Oh God, Anya.
So
Oh, you lit it up. You lit it
it
up.
was a bad
Sorry.
idea.
It was terrible.
It was a terrible
That's a
idea.
bad idea.
I've never been so tired in my
Yeah.
entire life.
But your representation.
I am repping. It's a
Heyo.
challenge, right? Because it's like I'm representing Kickstarter at the end of the day, right? Like
Right.
that's at the end of the day, that's who I'm representing. But I am representing myself in a lot of the panels where I'll talk about like my personal experiences and my personal life. Sometimes to a degree that I like am a little bit uncomfortable sharing, but I'm also like, well, whatever, it's fine.
Right.
This is my community. These are my friends. Like if I say something that's maybe deeply personal and it helps someone at the end of the day, like that's probably fine. Vulnerability never really hurt anybody. It's all good. But I have a fun challenge. I'm trying to word this correctly because it sounds very narcissistic.
Mhm.
But I've been told the reason people want me on their panel is, quote, it's nice to have a pretty face.
Yeah.
Bruh.
That's
Or
absolute trash right there. That's
I feel
absolute
like
yeah.
me
trash.
and Marcus are making the same face.
I
Sorry, I
mean,
looked at Marcus and I was like,
no,
that's my
you
face.
I
no,
looked
no,
at
like-
Marcus and started
No.
cracking up.
Just like,
Yeah.
nah.
Now,
Yeah.
hold on. You know what I'm saying?
Nah. Oh, wait.
I was like, wait, what?
Expand, but
Right.
know that I am angry. But yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
expand.
I also had the first 3 months that I worked at Kickstarter. My boss and I went to a conference, and a guy who applied for my job didn't get the job. I got the job, and he looked me right in the eye and he goes, "Well, I'm hot too. I could have gotten the job." And I was like, "You said
Oh,
this in
boy.
front of Luke."
I want to leave. Yeah, wait, first of all, yeah, that's hilarious. And I
Like-
want to know how Luke reacted. But like, second of all,
Turned bright red.
how very dare you? Like, why would you?
It's a weird thing. So I'm like, well, okay, so now I have the total like just spiral of like I have to represent Kickstarter. I also have to represent myself. I have to represent my like biracial community, which nobody even knows I'm biracial until I tell people, and I have to prove it. I have to prove it so many times because like whatever. Why would I lie? But fine. And then I have the added element of like, well, does it even matter what I'm saying? Am I only here because they just want a pretty girl? Like that's so what am I doing? Why am I here? What's the point of this? Why don't I just go home? Like this is such a waste of my time. And so like this is like nonsense. And so that's partially why I've just sort of been like F it, I'm just gonna be super honest about my experiences, because if that's all I am is like a token hot chick, a token woman, a token biracial person, a token Kickstarter person, I'm gonna flip the script then, and then fine, you want to get the real me, you want to get the dirt, you want to get the nonsense, then great, I'm gonna lay it all out there. And I think that's actually why
See,
more people have
they
been like,
put you in
should
that box. Like they put you in that box.
Yeah,
And
so
that's the
it's
thing.
weird.
It's like, you know, often people like us, you know, like especially for me, just from my experience, black people, like, you know, sometimes they put us in that box, you know, like it's like, all right, we brought this guy on for his energy, but we also brought him on because he's black. We checked 2 boxes. You see what I'm saying? Like, so, you know, we checked 2 boxes, we good, you know, right? We got diversity in there. We got this guy, you know, at the same time, but they'll sell it to me as, you know, like we like your energy, we like your
Right.
perspective, you know, and then you get up in the room, you find out otherwise, or you find out like, oh, this is where they put me in this box,
Yeah.
you know. And I use this joke all the time. Like somebody must have ordered diversity, you know, like on the side. So it's like it's a truth joke, you know. Like people think it's funny. I'm like, I'm saying that because you just don't realize like I hit the quota, like I hit the Star Wars quota. So it's like and unfortunately for you, that's exactly what they put you in. So it's almost no different whether they find you as biracial. It's the same thing. Like they would just box you. You know what I'm saying? So that's not what we want in this industry, and that's not what we want for the world. That's not just this industry. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So because that's happened in panels in all industries of the world and stuff like that. I mean, it's unfortunate we got a mob up in this right here, and we don't even have the screen full of people. You know, like talking about this wonderful topic with 20 people in the chat, you know, like, you know, a town hall of a lot of people, but we got ways to go, right?
I feel like, Cara, you're doing a lot of art too, Cara. I was going to say, could you also talk on how things have looked too from your like artist perspective as well? I know obviously you're also doing art for games, but like still, can you tell us more about your perspective from the art side of it too? Did I?
Okay. I don't know.
No.
But yeah, like about like trying to make minorities more visible. I'm not.
Yeah, just
I'm
like
not
what
sure,
have you
like,
seen things or what you've done?
Well, I can say that like on Let Her Go, the illustrations that Cara did, all of the illustrations of the game are hers, and the people that she put on the cards are diverse. They represent our friends.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There you go.
I'm bad at words.
Like, Cara, what did you do? Cara's like, I don't know. And the Marcus is like, everything.
Like,
everything.
Thanks, Marcus. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I wasn't even consciously thinking about like trying to make it diverse. I was just drawing people, and the people around me are all kinds of people. But yeah, like which card was it? Oh yeah, Jazz Hands. I based on my cousin Jason, Marcus's brother. There's a character like doing jazz hands, and I decided to do Jason because he's really into theater and stuff. But yeah, like I think I like, you know, drew him with braids and stuff, and you know, yeah.
I want people
the
to
card's
see that.
black and white, but it's still obvious that this is not a white person.
Yeah, and I really
like
I like how that came about with you, Cara. I do want to say, like, I like that I asked you and you didn't know, but then you knew, but you also like did like it was like you're making these decisions because you know it's right, not because it's like I need to choose to make these people diverse. It's just already in your brain. You're like, all right, like we need these people, like, and the fact that that is like. I wish that was the majority of the default mode, instead of people thinking they like doing something and then the last step they're like, oh, we need diversity, or like, oh, we forgot, like whatever. But meanwhile, Cara's like, we need a game, and you're like, boop, here's these 30 different people, and you're just like, that's just the case. You know what I mean? Like, I really wish it was like automatic like that. Like Marcus, because you're from a dev side too. What stuff have you seen / done?
Well, I mean, one of the things I've done is started putting my money where my mouth is, and actually donating to some of these companies that are trying to find more diverse voices and put them into gaming. Just if what's holding you back is a little bit of money, we can push a little bit of money at you, and we're giving people the network, giving them the outreach, showing them how the industry works, how to get your game in front of a publisher, just things you don't know because you're not exposed to. So that's one of the things I'm doing. I've seen any number of horrible things. I've had conversations I'd rather not recount.
Yeah, sure.
But I've done. I mean, this is one of the things they tell you. You have to be twice as good to get half as much.
Yep.
Not because you're super talented, but because you have to fight uphill against all the stuff that, if you were white, you just wouldn't think about. It wouldn't be a problem for you. It wouldn't be presented to you. It's like you're basically, your presence is questioned because you don't conform to the norm when you walk into the room.
Right. Just by existing, you're not the norm.
So when you go to talk about games, you have to prove that you know what you're talking about. Otherwise, they're gonna be like, okay, well, I don't know why he's here.
Yeah, the gatekeeping is a real problem in the games industry. It's a really, really, really huge issue. Not just from, I don't know. I feel like maybe in tabletop it's not as bad, but in video games it's devastatingly terrible in video games. just devastatingly terrible.
Oh, it
They're-
is. It is. It's
Yeah, I
an
was like,
issue.
I would say it's
It
pretty
is.
bad.
It is. Yeah.
I would
had
say
to-
it's pretty
I
bad.
had to have a couple in persons. You know what I'm saying? I had a
Yeah.
couple in persons, and I realized that at a certain point I had to play cute for a while,
Mm,
and then when people actually met
Yeah.
me, and then we had some real conversations, they knew other, like they knew, like, hey, like, you can't just tread on people like anybody,
yeah.
and then also me. And I'm gonna tell you how it is. I don't need to jam you up. It's just I need
Mhm.
you to know that, like, it doesn't work, man. You can't just do these types of things. I think we do have a lot of people who really don't know, like, what they're
Yeah.
doing, like, and they don't, just like I tell them, my outside of my job, hey man, I know you're gonna have moments where you're like, oh my god, like, I didn't mean to do that, like, that's great, I will teach you from ignorance, that's fine, but there's just a lot more people and a lot higher up that
Mm.
don't, and they don't care. So there's just
Yeah.
a lot more of those people,
Yeah.
and that's the problem. It's like I said, those people have to move up slowly.
And remember that also there are also like physical manifestations of that gatekeeping. Was it this past PAX Unplugged? I think it was this past PAX Unplugged. I was doing a panel with Mike Salinger, and the enforcers wouldn't let me in the room because they, quote, didn't believe I could know him, end quote, which was just like, bruh.
Bruh. I was just about to say, bruh.
Are you kidding me?
We're about to cue it up.
Like, I was
bruh.
like, I'm on the panel, and they're like, well, you can't know Mike Salinger, and I was like, I'm literally
Oh
friend,
my
like,
God.
he's
Come
literally
on,
my
man.
friend. And they're like, no, you
Come on.
can't. They had to like go bring him to the door to be like, yes, I know this person,
Oh
and
my
then they
God.
let me in,
Come on, bruh.
which is just like
Come on.
so ridiculous. Like, and it's
Oh
like
my God.
whenever it's just some other panel I'm doing, it's fine, but like because they're like, here's this high profile white person, and that high profile white person couldn't possibly know this random black person who I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And it was just like, are you kidding me? Like, seriously?
Tell me Mike went off.
No, he did. He did.
I was gonna
Thank
say,
you.
Mike probably
He was
did,
very
yeah.
angry.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike
It was
ain't
really
having that,
funny.
man. He ain't
I
having
love
it.
Mike.
Yo, I know, right? Oh no,
He
we
ain't
can't.
having
We
that.
can't know Mike. We don't know Mike Salinger. We can't. How could we possibly know Mike Salinger? Oh my god. No, yeah, he was very mad. It was hilarious. But before that, it was some nonsense. So that's why I was also like,
Oh my
trust
God.
me, the board game community be out here acting wild, and they'll also just tell you that to your face at conventions sometimes.
That's fair. Yeah.
Let's go.
I think I
Wow.
have the Kickstarter name behind me, which has shielded me from a lot. Like coming into this space is like, yeah, I'm an employee at Kickstarter. That's
Yeah.
granted me a lot of privilege that I think is just like I take for granted a little bit, which is my own thing that I need to kind of check every once in a while.
Yeah, checking privilege is important.
Yeah, one of the things that I feel that I am also, again, teaching or preaching or yelling or screaming is a lot of times the hand will pop up from white creators, white publishers, power position folk, and they're like, I was trying to help, right? So they'll do something where they're trying to help. I'm air quoting that. It's maybe it comes from a good heart, but it's obviously still wrong and bad and misguided because it's still from a white privilege perspective. And then they get slapped down, rightfully so, because it's bullshit, right?
Yes.
But then they slinker back and they go, oh well, I was trying to help, and this is what happens every time I try to help. I didn't help the right way, and I get reprimanded, so I'm just not going to help. And one of the things that I plead to people is take your lumps, and then come back and keep going, because I have put my foot in my mouth so many times. I mean, as an extrovert, you do that normally, but for when you want to tread into spaces that you don't have good perspective, you're going to do it a lot. And you've got to come in with humility and know, hey, I come with a good heart here. I'm saying this, I want to help. And then like Omari, Eric Lang, Jeremy has been like, hey guy, that post you just made, can we have a chat about that?
Mm-hmm.
And doing it in a way, and Eric has really been a really guiding light for me on a good bit. It would come in and say, don't take the post down, don't erase it and then put it back up the way we've told you or we've given you the perspective on. Go back in and put an edit and say, this is where I need correction on my perspective, and people are feeding into me, and we should look at it this way. and be humble about it. And so,
Mhm.
sorry, I guess you're just gonna get like 3-minute rants from me about.
How
but
do I
It's okay.
get people there? That's the thing, because like
Yeah.
I live in a place where it's 90% white people.
Gosh.
They're not used to thinking about these issues. They don't know how to approach these issues, and they're going to do it wrong like this. And then when they get jumped on, they're like, it's not worth the effort. How do I get people to where you are, where you're willing to accept this? Because I mean, I try to do mine in private. I don't try to come at people in public because that makes them less receptive to the
For sure.
information. But I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. Calling out a white person in public is just like setting a Karen off, right? So,
They
yeah,
really don't like being told no.
I think your
Girl.
one-on-one approach is definitely at least a good tip as far as like, hey, but I think a lot of it just comes out of relationships, right? Like
Yep.
Over the last 3 years, I've had interactions with Eric Lang and got to hang with him a bit at conventions and get to know him a little bit better. Same with Jeremy. And so when people call you out on things, I think we don't, in general, as humans, I don't think we do a good job of wanting to be called out in general.
Mhm.
So when people that we respect and know and have a relationship with do it, that's when we're like, well, maybe I should actually listen to what they're saying.
Right, but that's the issue. That's why it's like I almost want to say like this depends on the person, because like it takes a really aware person to even respect us in the first place to get to that point. And like it's very hard to try to change the mind of a white person who has power over you and doesn't respect you. And it's not like I can just be like, hey, maybe you should do this, because it's like they don't have any incentive to respect you, so they're just going to continue to disrespect you around you because that's what they know how to do. And it's hard. Yeah, like I'm
why
lucky that I know you,
Right.
because
Well, it's one of the reasons why
Yeah.
at the top I started with there has to be a genuine interest of why
Right.
do you want diversity, because I feel like if there's not a genuine heart to
Then,
why,
yeah.
then none of the other stuff's going to fall into place anyway,
Not
right?
at all.
So
Right.
that's why like I'm out there trying to like whoever will listen talk about this is why diversity is important. It's not to check boxes like Jeremy was saying earlier. It's not like Anya said to have a pretty face on the panel so that we don't get yelled at in the Reddit forums. It's because your company will benefit from having a diverse team. Period.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
I like I don't even know where I'm gonna go with this, but I just like thought about it and I was just like, dude, like this needs to be said. Like people need to hear this, man. Like so we had this whole issue with our was it PAX? Not PAX, but Origins. And we had this whole breakdown. Like I left and like we just had a huge thing. We did some solidarity, you know what I'm saying? And like after that, we got all this, private messages from people. And since I'm like kind of connected to a lot of people, they were like messaging me, Jeremy, what do we do? This is my statement. I don't know what to say. And I'm thinking to myself, like, where was this energy before? Where was this energy before? You know, I buy all your drinks. I buy a lot of drinks for people. I buy all your drinks, and you ain't say nothing to me.
Right, but now
we passed tipsy. You ain't said nothing to me. Like you ain't even had a real moment with me, and like that. You know what I'm saying? Like that. How can I do this? What can we do? And now all of a sudden, when your tail is tucked, you want to come out of the corner and sound good. You want to talk to me, and I don't. Like I said, I can teach from ignorance. I can teach from people who really wanted to help. Because they did, or they do, or they're learning, right? But I just want to say this to publishers who are out there, like, you got to do the work, like what James was saying, like you throwing bones at people, like you can throw bones at people, like some people ain't gonna take the bones, some people ain't gonna appreciate the bones, but you got to like go further than that. You got to go to these colleges, you got to open up your mind to different people, and to find people like us, you may have to go to different avenues, you may have to mentor. You may have to start from ground zero with raw skills and turn those into skills. And I know that's more than you can ask for, but I mean, I hate to say this like business wise, like that might be cheap labor in the beginning. That might be free internships, like for you small publishers, like, and I was like, the thing is like, I was like, in the end, I remember telling one publisher that I was like, in the end, if you hire someone for college, that was an intern, young woman, young man, whatever, right? And they were of color, and you nurtured that talent, that raw talent, or that great talent from another industry, and brought it here, you could have your small team of 5, and you could have so much success because you put in the work. to bring these people in, you know? And I was like, and that may not be another diverse person. It's just that like you can, if you open your mind, man, like, and that's, I don't feel like publishers are doing the work, you know, and like that also goes to like just even the front facing part, which is the box. You know, they continue to go to the people who, don't get me wrong, they put some baller out like Quantum Mora is awesome, right? Or Ian O'Toole is awesome. But it's like, and Beth Sobel though, she kills it. She understands diversity because she understands the people in the world. But there are people who doing some baller comic books right now. You know, I think I backed like 10 comic books this year just because they were Black designers. You know, like I was just like, they are killing it. Oh my God. You know,
Absolutely.
like, you know, like Ayana, there's a whole bunch of these crazy ones out there. And it's like, I want our industry to soak those people up and bring them in, you know, and they're gonna have to go outside their bounds, do a little scout work, you know, and I just wish that they did that. They had that energy.
Yeah, Jeremy, there is a lot of friction because I get a lot of that pressure too. Like when we're adding people to our team, we'll get those conversations going in the background where it's like, well, but this person's more qualified or this person has more whatever. And I'm like, right. I was like, but there's a bigger systematic issue that people of color don't have the same access and the same privileges. So that's going to be a thing. And to your point, like you've got to take somebody who has the raw skills and say, because diversity is important to my company and I want that end goal to be a more diverse product and perspective, I'm willing to put in this extra work. And that is a hard conversation to have internally because if everyone doesn't have the same buy-in, like say as I do, or whoever, you just get those different levels of buy-in for why diversity is important, and it's just a fight. It's a fight.
This honestly, it really leads well, actually, into one of the questions that we got from Instagram that I was going to do towards the end, which is, I guess, kind of now, but it still does really lend well to what we're talking about, which is that we had a question from Mergen the Dragon that says, how do we effectively get all gamers to the table when it comes to inclusion and diversity? So that's like exactly what we're talking about. Like, how do we take all these people that we know and try to show them or convince them that diversity is important? Like how are we doing that besides just yelling at them? I like yelling at them, but other people, they like doing other stuff too. So what are some other things? What can we do to just convince these people to get on board?
I'm gonna be short and shut up. I'm just gonna say, hey, I start with these kids because I don't know if it's gonna happen anytime soon. I want these kids to get older. I want them to get confident. I want them to have that moment, those moments that I had back with Super Bowl and checkers and all kinds of stuff. Your Stratego. I want them to have the moment that I had when I got toys at the YMCA and there was a whole bunch of these board games in there, and that kind of sparked my life. Well, I want them to have games like Reef and Grim Forest to play, and then they can have their moment. And hopefully they get older and that sparks joy in them so they can do that with their families and go to these conventions and stuff like that. And if I can one day somehow get a bus of kids to go to this stuff for the whole weekend and not on the token Saturday or late Sunday when nobody cares to be there, I'd rather have them there for the whole weekend doing some things, having some fun. Let's do that, and until that happens, that's going to take some time, man. It's all going to take this time, but we have to make that strong so when the time comes it's all there. So that's kind of what I'm working on, that's what I'm working on, because that's how I kind of given up on the older people. It's just so old, man. It's so old, and that's the problem. It's so old, and unfortunately I don't know how close that is going to ever get to changing, although it is slowly.
What do y'all think? What are some ways we can effectively get these gamers to the table?
From the Kickstarter perspective, one of the things that we try, at least I try really hard to do, although obviously now it's a little bit challenging with no traveling situations.
Right.
I actively try, and it's super challenging because I don't necessarily know what creators look like, nor do creators always use their real name. So a lot of it for me is a guessing game. But I do try very hard to make sure of a couple things. One, when we do events that are public facing, we try to have a diverse set of creators. So it's not just a bunch of white dudes. We have women, we have different colors, different shapes, different accessibilities as much as we possibly can. We don't always achieve it, but we absolutely try our best. Same with the dinners that we throw. A couple times I've looked at the seating and been like, it's all dudes. Did you not realize this? And have had to have that conversation and say, like, that person's no longer invited because we need to have another woman at this table. And I'm not going to go if we don't do that. Same with any sort of like promotions that we do. I try really hard to make sure that our newsletter is diverse. I try to make sure that any talks that I do, there's a good diverse set of creators in those talks. I don't showcase anybody's faces or anything like that. But I will just kind of be like, this is an interesting game. You should definitely check it out, right? Because we hit the pillars, whatever they are. And then I'll say from a player's perspective, of someone who like, I don't play as many games as I would like, but when I do, especially with any sort of character creation or RPGs, I try my best to make sure that I make a character that is unlike me in any possible way, just to get that perspective.
Same.
Right?
Hey.
I play black women on every freaking. I play black women on every freaking RPG ever.
Yeah, I
never play a man. I never play it.
I played a non-binary elf, and every time people would
Let's go.
I was like, it's they. It's they.
Wild.
Just to get
Yes.
that perspective. Even though I'm like, cis woman.
I'm non-binary.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But
I
will
use
say,
these in pronouns though, but still.
Yeah, but I will also say that like that has kind of had a little bit of a ripple effect within the people that I play with, where they were like, oh, I kind of want to play as a woman, or like, I kind of want to play as a man. Just to kind of get that different perspective. It's very small. I don't think it necessarily has like a huge impact, but it is just my little way of being like, I'm going to break the norm a little.
Yeah, Anya, I see that a lot too, when just being around things helps us as dumb humans, right? Like, I think we just need to be exposed and have our perspective widened, because that's, at first I remember hearing people within the company say, or not, but anytime they're around non-binary, like, I just can't do they, them. It's just grammatically incorrect. And I could never do that. And then even for myself, like when Maya was like, I'm they, them, sorry,
Yes.
just go ahead and get right. And I'm like, okay, well, that's going to be really tough for me, because that doesn't feel like any words I've ever used ever. And
well, James, water is wet, grass is green. Saying them is going to be tough for you.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, yes. Well, at first it was. At first, like the first handful of times, I'm like, oh, this feels so awkward to say that. But then, like, after you do it a handful of times, you're like, to Anya's point, right? Like, it's really no big deal, right?
Nope.
It's not at all. And I'm glad that the board game industry has at least introduced some of that normalcy to us. Like,
agree.
Like, I do feel like there is some of that. Like, that's a positive thing to me. Although there is a ton of challenges still.
Yeah.
It's just the language is out there. And there are
honestly,
enough of people out there in the content creating community that are are non-binary. And I'm glad that I get a chance to learn that for the world, because I don't see it a lot, and I work in a military setting, so a lot of people don't even express that, but it's like, if they did, I'm prepared for that, like, like I'm already ready, because I know what to do and what to say. I've lived in that world. I'm thankful for that in the industry. Very thankful for that.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I do want to give James another shout out to say I especially noticed that at Skybound, and I'm not just saying that because I work there, but like before, when I was transitioning my pronouns over, I hadn't actually told anyone yet. I just changed them in my signature, and Joelle and Bree started using them immediately. Like, literally, like, I didn't even have to tell them. Like, they just saw the change in my signature and started using it, and I was like, bless these people. Very, very relieved. That has never happened before, ever. But so for people who are eventually watching this, here, if you want to get some more diverse people in your lives, you should obviously follow us all on Twitter or whatever. We got some handles here. These are all for Twitter, except for me. My Twitter is mostly dormant because I haven't used it since 2013, but you can add me on Overwatch. I will play Overwatch with you. That is how I usually interact with my fans. Play Overwatch with me. But thank y'all for listening to this. Diversity is important. Showing people how important diversity is also important. Follow through with said diversity is probably the most important part. So
live
I
it,
hope
live it.
Yeah, live it.
Live
I hope
it.
people got something good out of us talking to you about a necessary thing.